on the move. Little dance step was good. Couple of bounces. Can take it himself and launch long. Inspirational.
Time ticking away. Stop it. For Silvani. What about that?
Mackay. Two in a minute. And they are dancing now, the Blues.
Almost Mackay. Walsh, here he is. Straightens up and has delivered. Is there nothing this young man can't do?
Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, and look, the Carlton community, they might be getting excited about the return of some big names in Pitnet, maybe even a McGovern, and certainly they were excited this week with the great Jacob Wiedering making his return. But I think we've topped that here on the Navy Blue Corner with the much anticipated return of the one and only Lockie Lydiard. Mate, how have you been?
Holy smokes, mate. Never have I ever had a better intro in my life. Thank you very much. You're very gracious. And what a great job you've done over the past month, I have to say. Brilliant job keeping down the fort and bringing the community together in the process, I feel.
Oh, mate, look, I appreciate it. And yeah, I gave some big intros to all the lovely guests that we thanks so much for helping us out in Lockie's absence when he was holidaying away in Europe. So I thought I'd have to give you one. And look, you've done very well here because you've timed your comeback with the Blues recording their biggest win of the season, beating West Coast by 63 points. Mate, it was an interesting game. There were many ups and downs. How impressed were you with the end result in that game?
Incredibly impressed, of course. I mean, keeping a side scoreless in 2 quarters is always something that has to be celebrated, no matter who the opposition, I think. And like you said, we're still a roller coaster. We're used to that now. But it was, I think, especially pleasing that the guys that kind of didn't step up in that second quarter when we got run over the top, they stood up in the end. So got to be very happy with that, I think.
Yeah, and we're 11-5. Both I went back through the predictions because I wanted to see both of us at the start of the year. We predicted 12 wins. Now, it could still all turn to who knows what, and we might not even
still be 11
wins. There's a chance, but I doubt that'll happen, and the boys have proven it so far. The fact that we said we get 12 wins, we're already got 11 at this stage, is just incredible. What a season we're seeing from these guys. Yes, we'll talk about the ups and downs from that game, but at our best, we're just so exciting. And I mean, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about that first quarter because I know there was a lot of nerves from a lot of people out there, which I don't know how many times I've had to come on this podcast in the past month and reassure everyone and just say, just calm down, guys. Every result in every single round, upsets are happening. Let's not worry about it. Let's just worry about us. Let's win our games of footy. And I mean, we came out hot. We came out ridiculously strong. We had 24-2 inside 50s in the quarter. I think it took them about 13 minutes for West Coast to even get the ball inside their 50. The score was 34-0 at quarter time. We kept West Coast scoreless. I mean, what did you make of that first electrifying quarter?
And even when you go into quarter time 34-0 up, I don't know if you were thinking this too, but it's like, we could be higher. We could be even higher up if we converted more. And you said, I think you might have posted on Twitter that you felt like it was similar to that Hawthorn game a few years ago. For me, I was being reminded of Leon Cameron's last game in even more recent memory, where I'm like, gee, we have just come out of the absolute blocks here. And even though this has been absolutely brilliant, we know that the other team is going to come. So I had that in the back of my mind moving forward. But of course, that first quarter was just brilliant.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Just the pressure was up. And these are the little things that when Carlton are playing well, there's basically 2 facets of the game that are going well. It's that tackle pressure. I mean, the amount of smothers that we were getting, particularly in our forward half, was incredible. We forced so many errors from West Coast. They were turning the ball over, which was leading to scores. And we just didn't allow them through the pressure and through the way we were positioning defensively across the ground. We weren't giving them the easy outs for once. And every time they finally won possession of the ball, they were under so much pressure that they were turning it over and they weren't able to transition out the back. Were there any other key things from that first quarter that you liked that you saw us take that big lead into quarter time.
Yeah, well, 30 seconds in, you are already saying to yourself, wow, the pressure's there. You could feel it right from the bounce, which you love to see, as you said. I mean, the thing that stood out to me the most was going into quarter time. It was like we are on top in every facet of this.
Yeah.
We're locking it inside 50 when we can. And when they manage to get it out, the defensive structure is holding up. And it just reiterates that point that we could see that when we are at our best and when everything is working well, it is an unbelievable system and set of personnel that we have. So it was just brilliant. And like I said, there was still some of those goals that, it could have been 50-0 very easily. So it was so pleasing.
I guess I have to ask you that question because I tweeted at quarter time. I saw a lot of negativity when I jumped onto Twitter to get everyone's sort of feelings on that first quarter. A lot unhappy, a lot thinking that we left a lot of the opportunities out there, didn't capitalize when we were on top. What did you think? Were you quite unhappy with it, or what did you feel going in at quarter time? Because personally, when we kept them scoreless, I didn't care about everything else because I saw how well everything else was going.
You know me and my optimism, mate, and what we are used to seeing dished up by this team in years gone by. So no, I'll never be unhappy with a scoreless performance by the other team. I mean, you can't put together perfect performances, and I saw a lot of that negativity too. When I was thinking about, we actually have some really good questions later on, similar to this. But I was thinking about some of the other more successful teams than us in recent times, and they obviously have moments like this in games where bad teams jump them. And I wondered to myself, do their supporters, have this kind of reaction? And I feel like it really is kind of just about where we've been over these last few years. And so I think as we continue to grow and continue to get more and more wins, that kind of feeling will subside and we'll be able to have more confidence that even if we, get jumped or don't kick straight, that we'll have faith. So I think that'll still take time. But for me, 5 goals to 0 every day of the week.
And it's this weird thing as well, being the last game of the round when a few results have kind of gone your way. It almost feels from a fan perspective like there's so much now pressure on this result, particularly the way the ladder keeps shaping up, where if we get this win, we just go that little bit clear. We know we've got a tough game against Geelong, coming up this week. So if you potentially lose that, if you can beat West Coast and just get that extra bit of lead in that ladder, it's going to hold you up going late into the season. And then you're thinking, if we stuff this up, when we're back in the pack and we might be out of the 8 pretty quickly. And you want to capitalize when other teams are dropping their points. And so I get the nerves. I get where we're coming from. And I even tweeted when that second quarter sort of fade out started to happen. Reminds me of that Hawthorn game that happened over in Perth where we came out and had one of the most electrifying starts I've ever seen. And then we shat the bed the next quarter and we just disappeared. And this game was the growth from like that period compared to now where West Coast come at us and we struggle for so many reasons that we're about to jump into. But how we were able to deal with that, absorb that in the third and then go on with it, that's the difference. We are such a better side now, and that is so evident. And I mean, let's touch on this second quarter. What went wrong, Lockie? Because, like you said, 34-0 in that first quarter. How did we turn it around and then show some of the worst Carlton that you can possibly see?
It's such a funny thing in football that when that momentum is there, like you said, it just feels like everything that can go wrong can. And then those little moments are the ones that are like broadcast super loudly. Yeah. Like I know everyone has their thoughts on Cripps getting run down, for instance, because things like that just make the 45-point quarter feel so much worse. But yeah, it was everywhere. If I had to put it on one group, for me, it would be the mids. It felt like it was the midfield battle where they got on top. I didn't necessarily think that the defenders could have done a whole lot with the supply that they were getting. I'll put my nuffy on for 1 second. I thought some of those goals are pretty lucky that West Coast got. I didn't think there was really 7 genuinely good goals in that. But for me, it was the midfield kind of, they got on top and some of our guys just seemed to drop off at the worst time.
Yeah, it was definitely the midfield for me. I don't have the stat here because unfortunately I haven't had a chance to watch the game back and properly take the notes, but And the majority of their goals in that second quarter all came from stoppages. And that's the midfield switching off. I don't know whether it was structurally. I don't know if it was just an individual player at a certain time not following his man, whether Nick Nat or whoever was in the ruck was getting a better look at it at times. But they were dominating us there, and we were so good in that first quarter at getting first use and getting that run and dash. And then as soon as West Coast started to get a bit of ascendancy in that position, we just sort of melted. And it's been a bit of an issue, probably I'd say over the last month, that when we've been our worst, it's been that midfield crop that have struggled for whatever reason. And, the inside 50 stats, first quarter we had 24, they had 2. Second quarter we had 12. They had 17, so they completely started to get the ball in there, but we were still doing it ourselves, and it was probably the biggest factor I was kind of looking at throughout this game. And you mentioned that some of their goals are a bit lucky, and you get a bit of a free kick here, maybe you should, and the little things don't go your way there, but their looks. And yes, they were a bit more efficient and they weren't missing. And it always hurts when you maybe had a first quarter where you've left a couple out there and then they just don't miss a thing.
From everywhere.
But their looks were a lot better than ours. I kept seeing a lot of our opportunities were, oh, cool, you're 40, 50 out on an angle. There's a 20 meters directly in front. And it's that creation that was frustrating me at times, seeing how easy they were able to create opportunities compared to us getting a lot of that football. But we just couldn't get those really good looks close to goal. And maybe in that first quarter, it was because the ball just lived down our attacking half for so long that they were able to just clog the space. Maybe that factored into our struggle to really put those goals on the scoreboard. But when it went the other way, it was awful. And, we scored 21 points. They got 45. They got more than we got in the first quarter with all our dominance. And you talk about that midfield and contested possessions. We were negative 12 for that quarter. It was 30-42 compared to we had plus 10 in that first quarter. So complete turnaround. And when you drop that off and they start winning it at the source, it can be hard to defend no matter who you're coming up against. Yeah,
exactly right. It just felt across the board as well with the mids. It was like, Walshy, where are you? George. Yeah. Massive first quarter from George. He was nowhere. And then Cripper as well, obviously had a few blunders. I know it's such a common thing. The more footy you watch, the more you see just how hard it is for one team to really dominate an entire game. Obviously, sort of the big 40-point comeback on the weekend. Collingwood run over the top of North. It's so hard to do, but I think for us to be that premiership team, we've got to be able to at least mitigate it a little bit more.
Yeah, especially knowing that their crowd's going to get into it if they start scoring. And that just makes it feel worse when you're the opposition and they're starting to get up and about, because we know West Coast have struggled this year for a multitude of reasons. But even fully fit, I don't rate them that highly. I don't think they're a finals team all healthy.
No way.
But you give them a little bit of a sniff, and that was the issue. We couldn't just go out there and kick the first few goals and then they go, it's not our day. We came at them and we just couldn't do it. It just took a little bit longer for us to maybe absorb that. Was there anything else in that second quarter that you noticed maybe dropped off that maybe was there in the first quarter?
Not particularly. The one thing I'll call out is I see the videos going around all over Twitter today. Just JSOS getting to Cripper after that play. I know you will have seen that. So good. And they're the things that just make us a different team to who we were as little as 12 months ago, because now we've got that belief and we get around each other and we know that, look, the third quarter wasn't anything spectacular, but then we can put the foot down in the end.
Yeah, it's nice to see that it's not just got to be the captain. We've got clearly other people that are trying to be leaders out there, and when it's their time to step up, when they believe that their voice, they need to be vocal and say something that it's being heard, and it's what stands us separately from what we were last year. And I don't want to necessarily just highlight Cripper, because there are multiple players that were doing it. I remember Zach Fisher did it. It might have been the first or second quarter, but multiple times we were getting the ball and just thinking that, we've got 10 years for some reason. And I don't know what was going on. And that was what was frustrating me. It wasn't just Cripper who held onto the ball too long. It was happening across the board. And when the pressure's there, when the momentum's going against you. You've just got to be that little bit smarter. And thank God we were able to get that chance to rectify it later in the game.
Maybe it's the confidence that they're feeling. Like we're asking for them to feel more confident, and then in the second quarter they're like, "All right, well, I've got heaps of bloody space," and then we crucify them for it. But yeah, you're right. There was a few of those. Gee, they hurt. But yeah,
and yeah, it was an interesting one because then third quarter we're all pretty much shitting ourselves, thinking, "Oh no, what is going to happen?" They've come back here. It's, I think, something like 10 points or something at halftime. It was a very close margin. And third quarter, I was actually pretty impressed with what we were able to do. We didn't necessarily go out there and dominate, but we stopped West Coast from having their ascendancy, and getting that goal late and just getting that lead out a little bit definitely held us in good stead going into that last quarter. Did you see anything you did like in that third?
It's funny, isn't it? It literally was probably 3 games in one.
Yeah.
If you want to put the fourth, the first together, and then the third, it was just this big stalemate.
Arm wrestle.
I just didn't have any particular notes in that quarter, to be honest. But I guess the only thing that I'll call out was just like the faith that I had, and maybe it's unwarranted because of some of the performances that I've missed over the past month, but. I just felt like that we're the better team, that we were going to be able to do it in the end. But yeah, what did you make of the third?
Yeah, it was the concern of, are we going to just fade away for whatever reason? We've seen what West Coast just did to us after we've come out there and shown our best football, and then to lose that lead, sometimes that's where mentally you can almost lose it and think, well, what have we got to do? Like, we just showed our best, and now we've got nothing to show for it. We've blown it. And so many people will just falter at that. They'll completely melt away and go, that's me done. And West Coast can run over the top. And I was pretty proud that we just dug in and just kept fighting. And eventually, like you said, I was confident that if we can just keep that margin, don't let them get in front, maybe start to get a couple ahead our way, that we could just run away with it. And ultimately, we then come out in that last quarter, and it was very much the same as the first quarter. The leaders stood up. We kept West Coast scoreless again. It's the first time since 1919 that a team has gone scoreless in the first and last quarters. And in that second half, overall, we kept West Coast to only 8 points to our 61 points. And I mean, that is the tale of where we're at the moment, and how impressive we are when we're on. The fact that the game was pretty much even going into halftime, and we just stopped them.
One of the most pleasing things for me about this game, and about so many things this year, and you and I talk about this sometimes, these like hoodoos that we have as a club that have been built up over time.
Yeah.
Like when we hadn't got to the 100-point barrier, there were some other ones there. Then beating Richmond at the start of the season. Then getting 3 on the trot at the start of the season. All these barriers being broken down. And this, to me, felt like one of those last ones. It's like, gee whiz, this team has just had the wood on us for so long.
Yeah.
It made it, that last quarter, one of the most enjoyable quarters of the season by far, to be able to put our foot down like that.
Yeah, we hadn't beaten them since 2014 when Menzel, kicks that goal. Murphy's run down the wing. Remember it like it was yesterday, but
me too.
I genuinely couldn't believe, although I could believe that because of how bad we've been, that was the last time that we actually defeated West Coast. And we needed to do it. These are the things, and Voss even spoke about that in his press conference, that like these little things that we're ticking off, we're breaking them all down. There's not too much left, really. It's probably playing finals and winning grand final that are probably the only ones left. We seem to be knocking these things out of the park. And for the playing group, that a lot of these players have kind of been through this. They've lost to Richmond all these times. They've started 0-2 every single year. They've lost to West Coast every single year. Now they're beating these teams where we're starting to get a bit more success, and they can keep building on this and go into next season going, go to West Coast. We're not worried anymore. And it's just these little mental hurdles that you're finally jumping. You don't have to sit there at the crunch time of the last quarter and think, oh, we just can't beat these guys. Because I know, and I've never played at an elite level, but I remember just at my little amateur level that there's some of those teams that you could never beat. And there is that little thing that when they kick that goal, you just go, it's happening again. And you try not to, and you just try to keep fighting, but it's there. And so it's so good that we're getting rid of all of these. And what else did you love about this last quarter? Because I think we're going to probably talk about this last quarter for the next hour or so.
I know. I was going to ask you for your favorite moment, but I'll lead with mine. It was Cripper's goal for me.
Yeah,
because after just seeing everything on Twitter and everyone just slamming him for that one play, it just felt good that he came back with a big last quarter, led from the front, as I kind of said at the top, and then slotted it through, the goal kicking master that he's become in 2022.
Yeah. Oh, look, that's definitely mine. It probably would have been Will Hayes' goal if that had just sailed through. Oh, I was up. Imagine. I was up pretty much as soon as that left his foot. Fortunately,
so was
it didn't go in. But it's definitely that Cripper goal, because I actually thought he had a really strong first quarter. He was in one of my best. I was really happy with everything he was doing. Has that couple of mistakes, one that leads to a goal, and because of the high standard that Cripper has sort of set himself, the fans are on his back for whatever reason. I don't get it completely. I was more upset with everyone else also doing what Cripper was doing. But then to turn it up when we needed our leaders, we needed everyone to stand up. I thought him and Walsh were immense in that last quarter. Yep. Cripps had 10 disposals, gets his goal, 3 clearances, which was the most in that last quarter. Walshy with 13 and 1 goal. I had 2 clearances, which is obviously the second highest there, if you can do that little quick maths. But both of those were just so instrumental around the ball. When you saw West Coast dominate us in the second quarter. We needed that midfield to show it. And I mean, what more could you want from those two to finally start dominating and get it on the scoreboard?
Got a big question for you. I haven't seen anyone talk about this, but maybe there has been chatter about it. What do you make about Matty Cottrell's subdued celebrations?
I'm not a fan. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, is it just the fact that he's too good now? Like, he's not just having to worry about his one goal being his high moment. He's like, no, I'm just actually good at football. My whole game is the celebration. Yeah. What do you make of it?
I'm a big fan of it, to be honest. I love it. I think it's genuinely like it. I feel like he's a more mature player. Like, it just felt like those first few games, as much as he's an icon for that and the game-winning goal he kicked, like, I just feel like he's got this confidence now on a different level where he's like, yeah, I'm going to kick these. This isn't surprising. I'm a goal-kicking wing now, and I'm a part of this team. So I just wanted to put out there because I'm very proud of his progression, because he's one of the guys that we were like, is he going to get a game this season with this list?
Yeah, and look, you've missed out, because I think I've touched on him almost every single week since you've been away, because I've just loved what he's been able to do in this sort of wing half forward role. We knew it was the gut running was there, but his disposal and decision making has just increased so much, and now he's hitting the scoreboard. He seems to be such a reliable kick in front of goal now. Doesn't seem to miss many of these set shots, and it always seems like we need a goal, and he always pops up, whether it is that match-winning goal or whether it's just one in a quarter. He's becoming a really handy player for us. One of these little role players that goes in, and he's not just this, Mitch Robinson 2.0 where you're just looking for a bit of bite from him to hit the contest. He's just playing good football, and it's so good to see quite a few of these players start to come up now. You can even talk about, a couple of the small forwards in Durden and in Motlop stepping up throughout this game, playing their role, and it gives you the win. This is how we've managed to go from outside finals into a potential contender for the grand final this season, because 80 to 90% of this team go in there week in, week out and apply themselves and play their role. It's just unbelievable. I love it. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I'm so happy too. What were your other favorites from that final quarter?
Look, TDK, I thought not just that last quarter, but his whole game was just incredibly impressive. He has the 16 disposals, 10 kicks, 10 contested possessions, 4 intercept possessions, 8 score involvements, 10 pressure acts, 7 clearances, 4 of them being center clearances. I thought he just stood up all day. He might not have won the hitouts. If you look at the raw numbers, it was kind of the same in that Freo game. If you're just looking at the stat sheet, you go, oh, he got given a bath again. Not the case. He was
of course
so
not.
instrumental when we needed him. His ability to get hands on it from the stoppages and just get that ball going for us. I thought that was just another great performance for him. He's having just a great month of footy.
He's just taken a step forward in every regard, as you put so well there. Against one of the, obviously not who he used to be, but one of the premier ruckmen of the 21st century. And he's doing it everywhere, all over the ground. His tap work's improving. It's good. It's going to mean that there's some big decisions to be made once we're fully healthy about where, the options are there even more, which is great. Love TDK. He was brilliant. One of his best games.
And the optimist, when all these injuries started happening, was saying this is a great opportunity for all these guys to step up, and then hopefully they've performed well. And then when all these players come back, we're going to be a better side. And as much as I was definitely in that camp as well, you just never know what's actually going to happen. And De Koning has just been unreal since stepping up into this role. Yeah, he might have a bad-ish game here or there, but he's 22 years old, playing a very tough position, coming up against some really good ruckmen in this stretch. And just to see his growth and development, being able to be that main man for so many hitouts, more than he would be attending those center bounces and stoppages if Pitternet was in there, having to shoulder that load. What more could you ask from him? It's just so exciting. It's so exciting.
Yep.
But I would love to touch on throughout the game. I just thought the small forwards brought that pressure. Durden and Motlop. Finally, they were able to kind of put it on the goal sheet. Finally, one of them was able to do it, because I know, having Pommy on here last week, we were really talking about those small forwards, and we had a bit of a discussion kind of highlighting that their role isn't necessarily just to kick goals. It's a lot more about applying that pressure, because the goals will come from that. They're not just in the team to kick goals as much as that's what we think a small forward's role is. But in saying that, we were hoping that one of these guys could come in and start to get on the end of them. And this week it was Durden. He gets his 2 goals. He had 4 inside 50 tackles, which was game high. Motlop had 2 inside 50 tackles, which was the 3rd highest. Both had 6 score involvements, 12 pressure acts to Durden, 13 to Motlop. That's exactly the perfect game you're asking from these guys.
And again, pick 37 Durden and pick 27 Motlop. It would not be ridiculous to say that either of these guys could become like an elite small forward, one of the best small forwards in the game. They're still both obviously incredibly young, man. And then, like you said, it was Durden this week for me. Oh, man. There's something about him. Every time he goes near the ball, the energy is there. Love the goal he kicked where he just put the Jets on off the front of Kerno. And he's shown as well that he can get up the ground and use the ball well. Oh, God, love him so much.
And I'm just trying to get the actual games played from these two up, because this is the crazy thing. Like, only 17 games for Corey Durden, and Motlop, he's only played this season. So let me find this, because it's not going to be many. It is indeed. He's played 6 games. Like,
dumb.
Imagine when these guys have played 50 to 100 games. We're talking about some absolute superstars in the comp. And you've even got a Matty Owies there that he most likely will come back in, who's been the best pressure player, one of the best for inside 50 tackles in the AFL, not just Carlton, the whole league. So it's really exciting, this little crop that we've got here that is still so inexperienced, but we're starting to see signs. It was Motlop last week. This week it's Durden. It's going to be amazing when both of them are at their peak, but they're both, 18, 19, 20 years old? Jesus.
Ridiculous. You just look down that list of 22 players, and there's just so much. It's just a full team performance, isn't it?
Yeah, and just some stats to show the domination of that last quarter, because it just shows the stranglehold we had on that last term. It was 115 disposals to 43. It was 20 inside 50s to 4, 11 to 6 clearances, 36 to 17 contested possessions, and 69 to 23 uncontested possessions. They didn't have a chance. We turned it on when we needed to, and we recorded our biggest winning margin since 2014. So
Unreal.
that's insane. First win against them since 2014 and biggest margin from the same year. The Blues are well and truly back. Any other big key moments or talking points you got from that game?
Oh, I could talk about every single man that wears the navy blue jumper, mate. I'll just say, obviously, gee whiz, the Saints game, I need the people to know, it's the first game that I haven't watched at all in a good 5 years, I would say. But I did hear that there was a bit of Chera being underdone talk.
Yes, big time.
Coming back. And I didn't get a hint of that at all in this one.
Yeah, it was really interesting because in the St Kilda game, he obviously had a lot of strapping on his knee, and I think there were rumors coming out that it was a potential. I don't even know. It was something to do with a potential injury that he had a while ago that's come back to the surface, and it was unrelated to what he was actually not playing for. So it was a very odd, weird thing. But he looked incredibly proppy. He was struggling to move. He didn't attend a center bounce. He was playing on the wing, this kind of half forward, half back role. We didn't throw Fisher in there, who was the replacement the week before. The whole game was just bizarre. And then we've come out and we've gone, no, let's fix this. And geez, plays an unbelievable game. And it's good to have a guy that knows the ground, that knows the conditions, because it was such a sort of slippery game. And he just started so strong. He was vital for us. I think he led for inside 50 entries, and like that's what you want from him. He was sort of recruited to the club as that little outside bit of class to help that midfield and to be the one delivering the ball inside 50. So I think that the more we can get of him playing the way he did on the weekend, it's just going to help us so much, just to add that little bit of point of difference to the midfield that we have at the moment. Yeah,
he's just such a great combo of doing the outside thing so well, as you say, but still tough, still tackling well, still willing to do the hard stuff when he needs to. But he doesn't always have to when there's bloke like George and Ricky in there to do the dirty work. So yeah, it's great. The midfield mix is so great, but like you said, it does seem like when we kind of slip up a little bit, it tends to be them first. So it's an area for improvement.
Yeah, it's probably the one thing that I know immediately as soon as the midfield struggles, everyone goes, why isn't Paddy Dow in there? And we've had this discussion so long. You can probably just go back to another podcast if you want to hear
any
episode. Full thoughts, because I don't really want to have the debate anymore. I'm backing in the coaches. But I do agree with the point I do think we need a slight point of difference in there. I don't think that's a Paddy Dow. I think it's more of that kind of Zach Fisher burst away and a bit more speed through there. I know that Paddy Dow is a bit of that burst, but can't play anywhere else is the big issue for him. And I don't know if there's another player out there currently in that best 22 that can maybe spend some time and pinch it through there that can help when we maybe are struggling, or whether it's just, it's not about personnel. It's just the guys in there aren't executing, because it seems like it works one quarter and it doesn't another. I'd love to know what is the big difference and what the coaches are saying isn't working, because that's clearly that big issue. We saw it last week. We saw it against Richmond. When the midfield's not firing, it all turns to shit. And I just want to know the difference, because we seem to be able to switch it on and off so quickly.
Oh, mate, to be a fly on the wall in those coaches' meetings. Isn't that the dream? That's what we want.
Oh, please, someone.
Sanctum.
I'll sign any NDA. I'm sorry, all listeners out there, but any information I can get, I will.
You've turned your back on the podcast so quickly. How dare you?
Don't worry. I'll start a burner account and just start leaking all the goss out for us all.
Brilliant.
But I can't believe we've gotten half an hour into this podcast and we haven't spoken about two individuals that between them got 10 goals for us on the weekend.
Said their name.
Mackay and Kerno. Unbelievable. And Like this is what the big thing I've been talking about. I know so many people, and I want to repeat it until it's drilled into Carlton fans' heads, because I know we're all getting a bit nervous into the last stretch of the season with some tough games coming up. We're still a bit worried. Are we going to make finals? What's going on? I'm worried about this opposition. I'm worried about this. Oppositions are worried about us. They're shitting
Bloody
themselves.
oath.
We kept West Coast scoreless in 2 quarters. They scored, 6 in another one? Look at us. And anytime you come up against a team that has 2 key forwards that even if the entry's garbage, they're getting their hands on it and they're kicking goals.
Yep.
You're going to be scared of that. And it's why we almost won last week, because we were able to still create opportunities when we're down. Mm-hmm. It is just an amazing thing for this football club to have. And these two are just, they're superstars of this football game. What did you make of their dual performance this week?
We can talk about another guy in a similar boat after this, but you just have to again remind yourself of what did we expect Curnow to be after all that time out? Like, we need to revisit our predictions, but I remember us saying it was like Harry being the leading goal kicker is just a no-brainer. Like, there's just no chance that Curnow is going to get anywhere near Harry's output. Kick 50 goals already for the season, Charlie?
Well and truly leading the Coleman now. He's running away with the thing.
It just does. It just makes such a tremendous difference when they're both there. It's goes without saying, but the times when we can have those 2 big options there rather than just putting the pressure on one, it makes a world of difference.
And how crazy is it that Harry probably for about 3 or so quarters, you're going, he just hasn't really had a great day today, and that's fine. We can allow that. At least Curnow's out there. And then within about 5 minutes, he's kicked 5.
Yeah.
And game's over. And he's just absolutely buried West Coast. And to have players of this caliber, I cannot wait for finals, because how do you stop it? Like, genuinely, how do you stop that? And if the ball's hitting the ground, you got Motlop, you've got Owies, you've got Durden. Someone's going to be getting this. Fisher's out there. J Sauce is doing bits. He was tremendous again today, just applying himself for the whole game.
So good.
How are you stopping this forward line? I don't get it.
You don't, mate. You don't. And then we all have the damn medals around our necks.
Exactly. I love the positivity. It's so much better after a win. It's good to have you on this one. Finally back for a good win.
And like I said with Curnow, just in terms of not seeing the possibility of the output that he did, I just want to call out Doc as well, because another Mr. Reliable in this team, just another great game, so efficient, such a good decision maker, and he's just playing at an unbelievable level for what he's been through, as we've said many times, but it deserves to be called out every time.
He was absolutely tremendous. He was one of the few, I thought, in that second quarter, and then particularly in the third, that just when we were needing someone to stand up and just help us out. Someone please just win the football. He was there. 28 disposals, 21 kicks. Disposal efficiency was at 86%. 4 tackles, 7 intercept possessions, which was the second highest of the game. 8 score involvements from rebounding from 50. He had 6 of those. And then 602 meters gained, which is the second highest again of the game. He was just absolutely everywhere. So strong, composed, and just that leader that we were needing out on there when we were down.
Mate, say no more. I got nothing to add to that. Beautiful. Exactly right. We love Doc.
Is the All-Australian team just going to be like 90% Carlton at this rate? Like him,
it's so hard to know.
Sard, Wiedering or Lewis Young, whichever one you want to throw in there. It's definitely going to be Charlie and Harry. Mate, midfield, keep them all in there. Cottrell on the half forward line with Fish. Beautiful stuff. You absolutely love it.
Will Hayes.
He could be the sub for the All-Australian team. Absolute super sub. What did you make of Will Hayes' little cameo there at the end?
Yeah, very happy for him that he got to have that little taste. And I don't think it'll be the last we see of him this season now, because I think he did enough. My God, mate, I leapt off that couch when the ball was in flight because I was like, the boys are going to absolutely swarm
Oh,
He connected
mate,
very well with it.
we were about to jump on a flight and hope we get there just in time to start celebrating with him. Imagine us mid-air. Oh no, he's missed it. We got no idea. But he was like, I want to preface this by just saying, look, he did come on very late. He's incredibly fresh. Everyone else has played 3 and a bit quarters of footy. It's always going to be a little bit easy. But not every single sub is able to have like a bit of an effect on the game. And yes, game was pretty much done. We were running on top of West Coast. But what I was really impressed was there was this one play. It was just before he shot on goal that I think he set up Harry, who may have missed. Not too sure what went on. We had some internet dramas. I think me getting so excited about Will Hayes, I just blew the internet down here in Mitcham. We broke the internet here over Will Hayes. But look, I just wanted to say, I don't know how much you got of anything I was going to say. We'll try to get some edit in there. But I just loved his ability to keep hard working there to get those possessions and keep pushing, because not everyone can do that coming on as a sub. You've seen some guys just not be able to really do anything. And it was only like 5 or so minutes, but it's exciting just to get a little bit of a glimpse of this guy. And I think given the opportunity, which he might get in the next couple of weeks because of maybe an injury to, say, a Jack Nunes, I'm excited to see if he can sort of plug into this team and what kind of role he can carve out for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just felt like he was very composed for a guy coming in at that stage of the game. And I mean, apart from that goal sailing through, you can't ask for much more than 5 touches from a guy in the last 5 minutes. So yeah, like I said, I think that opportunity is going to present itself before the season is out for him to have a bit more of a run. So that's good. Very happy for him. He's done it the right way. Yeah,
look, I think so. And I want to kind of revisit something that we were talking about. Maybe this goes away from the game a little bit, but I want to go into predictions and talking about a sort of run home now, because I haven't been able to chat to you too much over the last month or so. And our sort of predictions for these games, I said we'd beat Essendon, we'd lose to Richmond and Freo, we'd beat St Kilda and West Coast. So we'd get the 3 wins. We ended up doing that just in a different order. You don't
need to read mine out. No.
You gave us 4 wins. You were very, very happy. I love the optimism there. You did correctly predict the St Kilda loss. So that's the St Kilda and the Gold Coast one you've done. So thanks for that, Lockie. You've mozzed us. What are you sort of feeling about, I guess, the rest of the season and where you think and how many wins you think we can get? You're obviously very confident about the last month of footy, which in fairness, we were a good chance in all of those games to get up. Has how we've played over the last month with 3, going 3-3, has it changed anything? Have benchmarks changed for you now going forward? How are you seeing, I guess, our run home?
Yeah, it's a very good question. You could say it's an unpredictable season, but I think we say that every year. I think the one thing that I'm thinking at the moment, every team right now is beatable. I watched the whole Brisbane game on the weekend, which was not great footy, and they had a lot of outs, but they're definitely a beatable team. Obviously, Melbourne have shown that they're beatable. So I'm not, again, in previous years, we'd sit here and go, okay, that game is a definite loss. I'm not feeling that at all. All of these games are winnable. Having said that, I don't really see a scenario where we come away with more than 4 wins in this stretch. You'd be disappointed if we drop the Giants or the Crows, right?
Yeah.
And you'd hope that we even up the playing field with Collingwood. And if we can then get one of those 3, I think 4 would be brilliant. But I'm going to say that we get 3.
Yeah, and 3 was our sort of benchmark predictions at the midway point. Might have even been our predictions at the start of the year too. But that was kind of where we saw things, and it's probably still where I see things at the moment. If we can get 3 out of that whole run home, brilliant, makes us finals, and that's beautiful. That's all we ask for. But there's that chance that we can get more. We beat Geelong, this week, and who knows? You're a bit more confident. You beat GWS, you beat Adelaide, you get on a roll. Who knows what could happen? You beat Brisbane. Oh no, are we going undefeated to the flag? It crazy things have happened, and I don't want to go like full nuffy, but
I'm with you.
Like you've said, so many different things can happen. We know what our best is. Unfortunately, we know what our worst is, and it's trying to level those out and make sure that when we are down, teams like West Coast aren't getting 40 points on us in quick succession. And
exactly.
St Kilda were able to do that. Richmond were able to do that. So, like you said, every team's beatable, including us. Teams can definitely beat us. You've just got to switch on. And what's exciting is I know that our best is good enough. So I'm just incredibly excited for this next run home. This was one of those ones like, I guess, that Adelaide and GWS is coming up where you think it should be the win. And so for us to now be that team that just goes and gets that job done against these kinds of teams, I go back to the Adelaide, I go back to the North Melbourne games where it's like, just beat them because you're better. And we're finally doing that, which is definitely a big tick in my book.
Yeah, and it's dangerous, especially, we talked about this when we did our predictions for the end of the season. Like, beating a team twice in a season is a big effort. And we've already seen that when we lost to Richmond and we beat Freo, that's the case. So that's another reason why those two are danger games, because those teams have already seen us this year. But we've got a good reason to be confident.
And I've been really impressed with just how we've been able to just get through this patch where we've had so many key outs and so many players have stood up. Like, we finally get Wiedering back this week. Honestly, he could have just rested him another week. He pretty much did have a rest out there. We didn't even need him because the ball wasn't down there, and they just didn't even target his opposition player. Lewis Young stood up when he needed, and I'm sure Wiedering would have, but he was out there having a yogurt and having fun because the Blues were dominating.
David Madden did ask us, was this the easiest game of his career? And I genuinely think it would have been. Would he have had an easier game in his 6 or 7 years? I wouldn't have thought so.
Like, I'm not trying to make this like a dig on you, but like, we could have chucked you down there at fullback and it would have been no dramas at all. You would have absolutely held your own for us down there.
I really appreciate that, mate. I needed to hear that.
But it's great. Like, we've got Weeders, maybe Pitt coming back in the next week or two, a potential for a Gov to come back. Yep. You can, start to chip away and get some wins over the next month or so with these players returning. That's an exciting build towards finals, getting a bit of momentum and sort of starting to prime yourself for finals.
And like you said about, anyone can win on any day. Like, hopefully we get the luck coming our way with some bodies back, and some other teams drop some players for once, and we don't get a team nice. After their coach is getting sacked or after they're getting revved up all week, or can we just get a team in a bad state for once? That'd be handy.
Well, look, Geelong may have got the win, but they don't have Stewart, so maybe that's the little bit of luck that we need. So I really do want to get into chatting about that game as much as I've loved talking about the West Coast game. So I reckon before we jump into the fan questions, let's jump into some fan votes. And
love it.
Came out in droves for this one. Chera very stiff to not get a vote over in Western Australia. He missed out by one vote from you guys. But the man that took the one was Harry Mackay. The man who took the two was Sam Doherty, and your man of the match was the Charlie Curnow. How are your votes, Lockie? Are they similar?
I like it. Honestly, if I have to be honest with you, I changed them as we spoke, because you just talk about a player and you're like, oh yeah, how good was that? How good was that? So yeah, I went with Curnow with the one. I know, ridiculous when you kick five. And I'm also not even going to put Harry in there because, a couple of Crummers goals, could have had 8. He's not in there. I went 2 for Ches and 3 for Doc.
Big. Yeah, I've gone similar, but I had to give a vote to the big man, Tom De Koning. I thought he absolutely deserved it.
Well deserved.
My one vote, honestly, could have gone to about 30 blokes. And I remember I'm going against my word a little bit.
30?
I was actually...
Greg Clark?
when I He gets it for that one touch, I think. Votes for touches. I was sitting on the couch enjoying the game in that last quarter. I sat there, turned to my girlfriend and said, mate, if Cripper kicks this, he gets my one vote. He did. He's not getting it. I'm sorry. I've gone against my word. It's very stiff for Big Rick. I'm giving it to Tom Decoding. I'm giving the 2 to Doc. And I've got to give my 3 to Charlie Curnow just for his sort of 4-quarter performance and getting us over the line by finishing, which after last week, a lot was spoken about him not kicking through the ball and missing a lot of chances. Gee, you're not talking about that this week, are you? It's crazy how much things change in a week.
I feel like if you were just kind of glancing at the game and didn't look at the stats, you felt like Charlie kicked 8 and Harry kicked 2. Like you see they both kicked 5. It's like, really? They both kicked 5? We love it.
100%. So I guess hit me with some fan questions, Lockie. It'd be nice to have someone else ask me some this week instead of me having to do all the hosting duties for once.
You're welcome, mate. Glad to take some of the workload off you. And we'll pivot a little bit because I've got a couple here that have been replies to your tweets, but aren't necessarily questions, but want to give, a bit of a platform to these because I think they kind of express a lot of our feelings as well. And just kind of a good reminder of things. So John Couchy, I just wanted to read out what he had to say here. I'm guilty of it, and I'm sure all supporters were when they came back at us. The negative thoughts crept in, and I guess that comes from where we've come from. But I think it's time we start thinking that we're a good team and are coached well, and that we'll bring on the finals. Dare to dream. I just love that sentiment from John there. I think, and I kind of touched on that earlier. I think it's so hard for us to have the faith in those moments, but if we can do our best to try and turn that switch a little bit, and rather than feeling like we're going to get overrun, start having faith in this team because they're starting to show it more often than not.
No, I agree. I think it's that hard part where because we just haven't made finals, and it's really all we're really wanting from this season. I know we might be wanting more as well. You might want to win a final and go further, but you just want at least to finally make finals, break that duck for us. And the nerves kick in for these kind of games that you pencil in as a win, and then the team starts to come back at you, and you're just like, oh, please.
Yeah.
Anything. I'd give anything for this win. And the negative thoughts creep in, but they just keep proving it week in, week out. Crunch time, they get it done.
Absolutely right, mate. And then the second one here from the good man, Anthony, the lone wolf ant, a favourite on the pod. And he said, not a question, but to the fans. This is a bit more between games. Can we stop hearing about danger games or that we are doomed? It's all we heard last week. It was nauseating. Can we have faith in Voss? We've come a long way since 12 months ago when we were so heavily scrutinized by the media. So yeah, not as much about the in the game, but I thought that it was like, if we lose this game this week, it's all over. Like we can't come back from this.
Oh no.
It's so hard to get out of that doom and gloom mindset from where we've been as a club, and we haven't got the success yet, but we're building towards it. And yeah, I don't know. It's just so hard to shift that mindset towards like, we're going to bounce back. St Kilda was bad. Put it in the bin. We're going to bounce back. It's hard to do, but we need to be conscious of it, I think.
Well, we've still not lost 2 games in a row this season. Once again, we have a loss. We bounce back the week after. And I guess I'm just weirdly, the word danger game gets thrown around quite a lot, but I just think every game is, if you're going to say danger game, because every game's hard. No games are a gimme these days. And I'm confident that if we lose one, we'll find a way to get one back in a game that we're not meant to. And maybe that's because we came out in that Freo game when I didn't expect us to. And there's been other games this season, particularly early, where you're like, we might not beat Richmond. We might not beat the Doggies. And then we just go out there and do it. I have so much faith in this group, and that extends to the coaching group too, that if we are to lose a game like an Adelaide or GWS that you're expected to win, that we'll come out and we'll beat Melbourne, because we'll just find a way to even this out. This group are good enough. And I do have belief that way, that you see results every single round. You can't predict them. Anyone doing footy tipping this year knows how hard it is. Don't worry if we drop one, we'll get it back.
Love it, mate. We're very aligned on that. All right, now into the questions, the best part. So one from Navy Blue Baggers. Two good parts here. We've spoken about TDK a lot, but he asks, has TDK broken through a barrier of sorts? The last few weeks, he seems to have been building. And then today, he absolutely torn Nui apart, which is great. We can touch on that. But even more, I've seen a few people talking about this guy. What did you think of Honey's game? He didn't hit the scoreboard, but he had some valuable taps and 1%ers that resulted in goals. I've seen some mixed feelings online, so I'm keen to get yours, Brownie.
Yeah, look, we know long-time listeners of this podcast know my love for Joshy Honey.
Your man.
Fortunately, he hasn't been great, has he? I'd love to get your thoughts as well on him. Since coming back into the team, I've just wanted a little bit more. I thought he was a little bit scrappy in that sort of first game against Freo, but looked like he was just almost, he had a couple of almost moments. Thought, okay, give him a couple of weeks at AFL level. He'll figure it out. Was pretty poor last week, apart from the one assist to, I think it was Motlop. And then this week, it was again, like there's a couple of almost moments. There's a nice little tap here or there, but he's just not probably offering enough for what we're requiring in this role. He's not offering that defensive pressure like the other guys out there. And if he's not doing that, he needs to be pushing up the ground, winning the ball higher, getting those marks that we know he can get, because he plays a bit taller than his height. He can be a bit more of a lead-up player and then hit the scoreboard. And unfortunately, he just looks like he's maybe not up to the pace. I don't know what it is, whether it's confidence. It's so hard for these players that miss big chunks of the season to really hit the ground running. He only really had that one game in the VFL where he kicked 4 goals. I think it was pretty poor the week before that. Come straight in. So maybe just he's one of those guys that needs some continuity, needs some form in the twos. Go back there. It's not a bad thing. Get your confidence, because he looked electric last year and he just hasn't recaptured that for whatever reason this season. What have you been making of Josh Honey so far this year?
Yeah, no, well said. I mostly agree. I think maybe I'm not as critical as I haven't seen the last week's game and only a bit of the Freo one. So I'm kind of just going off this one. A comment I saw someone say on Twitter was, it's hard to be critical of kind of a small medium forward in a team that kicks 17 goals with 31 scoring shots. It's kind of like, and I agree with that to an extent, but I also think that it's like he needs to make way for Owies next week if Owies is good to go, I think. So I still have full faith in Honey that he can be, I think he can be in our premiership team. He can still develop so much more than where he's at. Still have the faith in him. He's your man. He didn't do enough on the weekend, but also it would be like if this was a loss and that was his performance, we'd be scrutinizing it a lot more, I think.
And Vossi himself came out a couple of weeks ago and touched on how hard that sort of half-forward role is to play in this day and age. Sometimes you can just go missing in games, and so it can be a hard one to judge at times, but I think that what some other players around him have done this season, they've sort of set some standards of you can have maybe one game, but if it's 2-3 games in a row at that level, our standards are here now. You just have to be that little bit better. And unfortunately, he just wasn't at that. But I have full faith that he'll be back after some time, just getting that confidence back.
Yep, totally right, mate. Timmy Dub time? It's probably been a little bit.
It's been a while for you.
We have a big schedule leading up to the finals, which you just went through, and securing a place is our main goal. Couldn't agree more with that, Timmy. Yep. That's what I've been telling everybody over the past few weeks that I've seen. Make finals. That's all we care about. What would be the one thing that you're looking for to ensure we are a bona fide contender come September? Love that question.
Yeah.
He was due for a good one.
We don't often get any quality out of Timmy Dub. We constantly he sends them in, and we're not even reading them out on this podcast. No, we absolutely love him. He always makes me think way too hard.
I could jump in first if you like.
Yeah, go for it, mate. 'Cause you'll probably end up stealing whatever I'm gonna say. So it's about time that you get in before me.
Touched on it before. I just think, and this is a cop-out answer. Steven's not going to love this. He's going to smack his keyboard after I say this. Isn't it just health?
Okay,
Like,
it's not where I was gonna go, so you didn't steal it. Thank you.
if we keep our current side that we have right now, even if we didn't add any bodies back to that team that was on the weekend, I'd be so confident going into September myself. So I feel like we just need a bit of luck to go our way. That would be the one thing. If I said the one thing that would be a promise, if we could just keep this health that we have right now, and not lose any bodies, I'd feel good.
No, it's a good one.
Might be a cop out.
I don't think it's too much of a cop out because I think the best teams, you look at it historically, don't have too many key outs. They might lose one or two, but they don't have the injuries that we've had where it's your best key defender, your best key forward, your best ruck, your only intercept defender, one of your better halfbacks. Name about 30 other blokes on the list because they've all been injured at some stage this year. You don't have those kind of outs. And like we said, if you start to get these guys back, give them some games to get that continuity before finals, get everyone gelling and firing, then you become a real contender like that. So I don't think that's too much of a cop-out answer. I'll go a different way. I'm going to say that maybe mine's a bit of a cop-out answer, talking about the gap between our best and worst. I need to see us, and maybe the St. Kilda game is a little bit like that, but I really want to see us against a somewhat better opposition, someone around us on the ladder. If we have a poor performance where we're not 100% on, like that St. Kilda game, where the midfield's not 100% working, things aren't gelling perfectly, if we can find a way to win those games and just scrap a win, that's when I think we're, that top 4 team in the competition of really going deep into finals. Because at the moment, when we're not on, we're getting close, but we're not getting those wins. And I'll go back to Richmond. We got close, didn't get there. St. Kilda again. There's probably been a couple of others this year. Collingwood, another. When we're not at our best, we haven't probably got the chocolates. And that's the making of those premiership teams that even at their worst, they're still winning games of footy.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's not a cop-out. Nah, they're not cop-out answers. Hopefully that satisfies Timmy Dub.
Never cop-out answers on this pod. Only excellence.
Facts. 2 questions here, kind of similar. Just talking about the small forwards again. We've got another Tim. Oh, Timmy G. Tim Gigantor.
Timmy G.
You're going to like this question, I think. Maybe you'll put your tinfoil hat on. Our small forwards have loads of talent, but are inconsistent. Do we lure Eddie back to Carlton after seeing how well he's been with Stengel? Or is there someone else we could get to coach? And then Ewan Morton asked as well, just what our thoughts are on how the small forwards are going in terms of their roving, and as well as how they're working up the ground. So we've spoken on them a bit, but I don't know. Do you have any more thoughts on more consistency for our small forwards, or like where can see it happening? I mean, this is a game where it was two goals between the 3 of them is not what you want, but when Harry and Charlie are doing that.
It's the hardest thing because the improvement from these forwards is one of them becoming that Charlie Cameron, Tom Papley, where one of them is the goal scorer. One of them is that guy that out of nothing, like Eddie Betts has been, where the ball comes in and you're like, God, we just need a goal out of our ass. And just out of nowhere, through the pack, he's kicked an absolute ripper out of nothing. And Motlop's shown that it's stages, but he's played 6 games of football. I think that's just where it's at the moment. Our small forwards are just inexperienced, and small forwards can be a really tough position as well because it's a hard one. And when that ball's not hitting the ground because our key targets are marking everything, it can be hard to rove them. And I don't think they've been perfect, but what I've loved is for probably the majority of the year, they've been bringing the heat, bringing the pressure. And I think that's the base for these guys. And then everything else is just a progression after that. And I just go back to inexperience. You look at even Owies, he might be that little bit older. But God, gee, how many games has he played? I don't have it on me, but I wouldn't think it'd be much more than like 20 or so games. I sometimes wonder, and maybe this is just because of the standards that we're setting and where we think we are, or like what our expectations are of these guys, just because you've got to take a step back at times and be like, just haven't played a lot of football. And even like continuity, Motlop hasn't really had, played 6 games? He hasn't had, 10, 15 games in a row. Durden's finally getting that. Always has had a couple of injuries, been a bit in and out. So it's tough to really hit the ground running and become an elite small forward out of nowhere when you're just not at it. I'm not sure I'd say bring Eddie Betts back. I think our coaches are good enough. I don't think you'd need necessarily like a small forward coach for them. I think the skills are there. I've seen enough from them. I think it's just going to be natural growth out of them. Or maybe we look to land someone in the draft or someone we can snag from an opposition that can be that probably more the cog where I think we're missing is that maybe what Jack Martin was meant to be. That guy that can mark and hit the scoreboard and be that X factor. Maybe that's just what we're missing at the moment.
Yeah. No, well said. And I think the only bit I would add is, like you mentioned before, and like Vossi said, the way that we measure these performances needs to be different to how we do to your midfielders, for instance. Like, they're not, you look at, what if I go to Dirt stats here, it was something like 10 disposals, like, or Motlop, 11 disposals and 0 goals.
Yeah.
Like, someone would look at that and go, well, that's not a good small forward game. But he did what he needed to do in this game. So the way that we measure them needs to be adequate as well.
The next step's definitely adding those goals, but I think it'll come for sure.
Definitely. And then we'll move on. How these questions always seem to wrap up, because we always get some of these questions and we love talking about them.
Love them.
From Jace, how does the forward line look when Pitt is back? And from Dom, Pitt, Gov, and Williams, do they all get a game when healthy?
Oh,
start with Pitt.
Pitt straight in for me. Absolutely. Have loved TDK, but he's been our best ruckman when he was in. And I think we've seen that, look, Saucy battles hard. He does some great things. He was the second highest tackler on the ground, and that's the heat he brings when he's around that contest. Absolutely love it. But yeah, he's definitely straight in for me. Gov's the interesting one. I personally would have him in because those first 2 rounds, having that intercept down there looked incredible, and we haven't seen it since. No one has come in and played that intercepting role. I just remember that mark against Richmond and then him pushing up the ground and creating by foot. It's a point of difference, and coming up against really good opposition that have 2 really good key forwards, having that third that can roam and really help. We've seen it's something that can stop us when we go forward, having a really good interceptor. So probably Gov comes back, and look, Zach Williams has been one of the much maligned players since coming over. I think the backline's held up really well personnel-wise, but he was probably just starting to get into some really good form before
I thought so too.
Injury. I
was hoping you would say that.
Yeah, if you're saying everyone at their best, he's best 22. I'd say so. What about you? How are you fitting them all in? Do you think that they squeeze in?
I agree. I think all 3 are still best 22. Maybe the only bit that I'd add, and you may disagree here, I think it'll be matchup dependent, but I could actually see all 3 of them having a week in the 2s to come back. I don't think any of the 3 are your walk up in such a way that we bring you in, even if you're, like Cripper's not having a game in the 2s.
Yeah.
And maybe, yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Pitto, just because depth in maybe the position, I reckon would probably come straight in. I reckon you could deal with a slightly underdone Pitt in there rather than the other guys. Like, I'm happy to get some match fitness in there, because another name I'd want to throw in there is where do you see Jack Martin as well? Because Would he be
Oh, yeah.
someone that needs to get some form for you as well? Or is he someone that you see as a best 22 footballer?
No, he's certainly below these three for me. Big friend of the show, J-Rob, and I were chatting about him on Saturday, and that he's definitely not in the top 5 forwards to
Yep.
bring in at the best of times. And right now, with how we're playing as well, it wouldn't be then. So, yeah. But I mean, so on Pitt, no, we'll get into the changes for this week. But the reason I said opposition specific, like someone like Geelong, like with someone like Blitzarves in the ruck, if Pitt was good to go this week, you think we would bring him straight in?
I would think so, just because of how well he sort of played. I think they see him as our number one ruck, and I'd like to see TDK be able to pinch hit a little bit more just to keep him fresh, because I like what he's been able to do, and I think he might be even better if he's not run ragged being in the ruck for the whole game.
Yeah. So in that scenario, so I mean, it would be like a Honey to go out, would it be? Or would it be more of a midfield type? That's where it gets tricky because
it's tough.
As mentioned in the question, it means that we've got the 4 big tools then rolling through. So it changes kind of the dynamic.
Gee, I'm not 100% sure. Like
it's hard.
We'll jump to kind of talking about the Geelong build-up, because like the changes I've kind of got at the moment, I almost honestly forgot about Pitt, was Honey comes out, always comes straight back in if fit.
Agree.
Then if Nunes isn't good to go with that Corky, I'd kind of be happy with a Hayes to come in and see what he can do. I know that Nunes has been playing this more halfback role because of the personnel, but I would like to see, I think a Hayes through the ground would be really good. And then we haven't touched on him. He's been someone that I thought has had a pretty good month of footy, but had a bit of an average game against St Kilda, and then had a really bad game this week. And I think with someone else in the twos having a really good game again, I think Plowman probably has to make way, and Stocker probably get to go, because as much as I think Plowman's been really solid and done some really nice things, he just looked a bit panicked at times. And I don't know who allowed him to take the kick in that instance.
I didn't like
out
that.
Out of all the people, why would you allow that, even an opportunity of that turnover to happen? It just seemed very, very silly. Like, you wouldn't sit there and go, hey, Pitternet, can you take the kick in? Like, you just don't get the people that aren't great users by footy to do those things. It was an interesting one, but like those 3 changes would probably be mine at the moment. Oh God, I have no idea how you get Pitt into that team, but he definitely comes in. You'd imagine. Have you thought much about the changes this week?
I like where you were going with it. I'll probably get some head shakes from some listeners right now. I want to take the kick out of it as an outlier, because I agree with you. I said the same thing. Just why would that ever happen? Like, that just shouldn't be the case.
So
you just shouldn't be doing that. I think I could go through the game right now, and I'm not going to actually do this, but maybe I'll have to if I get any heat. I think I could find mistakes from every single player where they looked panicked in this game. Maybe not Wiedering. I just did not see the what everyone else was seeing from Plowman. I agree that he made some mistakes. Every single player made mistakes. I'm not commenting on previous weeks, because if you said that he's had a bad run of form, then I like it. And Stocker's my man, and he's the future. Yeah. That's all
look,
I'll say on that.
I'm probably us two are like the number 1 and 2 ticket holders of the Plowman fan club. Like, we always seem to back him up, and I agree. I do think others made mistakes, but it was just, I want a little bit more assuredness. I thought just at times, whether it's just body language or something, but he looks like he's about to cause an error. I don't know what that is, but even on top of that, because I tend to defend him quite often at being and doing his role nicely. It was kind of, it's another week I didn't love his all-round game, and because
I
of that,
agree.
I think you kind of have to have some level of standards. And as much as I think he's had a good month before that, that's 2 so-and-so games. Someone else who's playing really well in the twos, he can come straight in. But I can definitely see them saying he was fine again, go again. And yeah, I agree. It
Yeah.
seems strange that the big story seemed to be Plowman again, where I don't think he was diabolical, but it was enough for me to maybe want to make a change.
But this, and love that you went there because it reminded me of what I was thinking during the game. I agree with what you're saying. If Stocker comes in and has a performance like he did before he went out, what then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then Stocker's out for Plowman. Like it's not about the fact that I love Plowman and I think he's a premiership player. It's the fact that you look at who we've got to come in, and we were all ridiculing Stocker for how he was using the ball and he looked nowhere near it. If there was, and I agree that performances in the twos is good, but it's not everything, because there's every chance that we drop Plowman for this and Stocker is the worst on ground, but doesn't cop it as much because he doesn't wear the number 20.
20. Yes.
Yeah. For a moment there, I'm like, how much do I actually know this man that I love?
Well, you're clearly not the number one Lockie
No.
Plowman fan, because we'd all know that he's currently. I might not be wearing a Carlton jumper here, but I've always got number 20 on the back.
Yeah. No, that's all I want to say on it. I agree. Plowman can make way if there's an absolute beautiful replacement like a McGovern or Marchbank is ready to go. But yeah, just hesitant on that.
Yeah, that's all right. Would you rather say if a Nunes makes way with the injury that a Stocker comes in there instead? Is that more a change that you'd like for someone that was playing a bit more of that halfback sort of penetrating role?
Absolutely. Good call out there. And if Williams or someone like that was good to go, I'd rather see that than Stocker, who it just felt like it was. Yeah, just when we saw him, he just wasn't up to it. And I don't know if a couple of good games in the twos is enough yet. But yeah. And also, like, I know a few of those there were, like, if Nunes is out for injury, like you say, but we just won by 65 points. So let's not swing the axe too much, because Plowman must have done an okay job if they kicked 1 goal in 3 quarters.
And in fairness, they're smalls all round. Did they touch the ball?
Liam who?
Willie who? Seriously, like
never heard of him.
The crop of small defenders, like I thought Newman was really strong. I thought Sard was really good. Doherty, obviously, we've touched on. And obviously, to an extent there as well, Plowman played his role and was able to stop these small forwards from really causing us a lot of trouble. They all sort of kind of rotate at times. And that's something that even when they were bringing the heat, it wasn't sort of the smalls that were killing us, which you've got to say and sort of applaud their efforts there in that game.
So on the official Carlton site, they've got on the 27th of June, they said Gov would aim to return to some level of football around 18. I haven't heard anything. Have you? I
haven't heard too much. And I do have a feeling like you, because of his injury and his fitness issues, they would probably, if I was in charge, I would probably say, just give me a week of fitness in the twos rather than like a form thing. I just want to make sure you can get through a game, or whether it's 3/4 of a game, and then say, cool, you're good to go. Yeah. So I think that makes the most sense.
So if Nunes did make way for, say, Stocker, you wouldn't go Gov in for Plowman. You'd give him a week.
Yeah, I think I would probably rather be a little bit more cautious with Gov, knowing his injury past. Or do you go the way I've seen some other people say? It's like, well, he's probably going to get injured anyway. Get what you can out of him.
Oh, gee whiz. Oh, we hate that. We absolutely hate that. You feeling good about this game, though?
I am, weirdly. And I did watch them just beat Melbourne, which should make me incredibly nervous. But there's always that part of you that goes, it was down at GMHBA. So how much does that really factor into it? I know at times Melbourne really struggled to clear the ball with those really narrow wings. And Melbourne's big game plan and how they play is so much through the Langdon and the Brayshaws and those that do occupy those wings. So that ground cuts those guys out of it and can make things pretty difficult. So knowing it's at the G excites me. I maybe wish, weirdly enough, I kind of wish this game was at Marvel, knowing how well we seem to play on that little dry deck. But
yeah, we love a dry deck.
It's another one of these games that I'm less nervous. I'm more just excited just to test and see where we are now, because we've had a bit of up and down form against sort of, maybe you can say Freo is that little bit better, but I think that sort of the Geelong, Melbourne, and Brisbane are kind of those top three for me. Everyone else is kind of sort of sandwiched in between. I really want to see how we compete against those and just how far off or maybe where we are at their level.
I'm with you.
What about yourself?
I watched that game too. I didn't really, neither team appeared that flash to me. Neither will put in their best effort. But I'm with you. I need to get some stats on this. If I was a big data man, I would do this. How often does a team, I feel like you want to play a team after they win. Like it felt like if Geelong,
I would love to see that.
If Geelong lost this game against Melbourne, I'm like, we're done. they're going to bounce back. But the fact that they won, it's like, this feels good. They're on top of the ladder. They got a bit of cockiness about them now. It feels like the right time for us to knock them off. So if that's all that I'm going off, I feel quietly confident.
No, it should be a really, really good game. It's a Saturday night, so a bit of a blockbuster clash there, if I can actually get that word out. We chatted a bit about changes. I will definitely be in attendance. What about yourself?
Beer, then, yeah,
definitely we'll be there. So if anyone wants to come and find us, slide into those DMs. We'll definitely do a lovely little meetup for anyone.
We'll never say no to a beer.
Oh, definitely. Can never say no to that. Drink responsibly, of course. But we talked about changes. I don't feel like I really got yours. I feel like there was a little bit of fence sitting, and I've been pretty nice in your comeback, but I've got to be a bit harder on this one. Give me your changes for this week, Lockie. I want to hear.
Well, it's very hard because I'm looking at this injury list and I'm like, what are we talking here? The update dates are weeks apart. I don't know who's available.
Let's just say I'll give you maybe two options. You can have Pito's no good or Pito's good. He's probably the only one that I will say is in contention.
Okay. If Pito's no good, but then there's Nunes. I assume that Nunes is going to pull up, honestly.
Fair.
And if he does, and Pito's no good, no changes.
Ooh.
If Pito...
so you would say you'd keep Josh Honey in there?
Oh, because always...
always.
Yeah, always.
Let's say always is good. Let's say always is good.
Yeah, if always is good, he's coming in. And it's Honey out. Oh, gee, it's so hard. There's too many hypotheticals. I feel like normally we know what we're getting. So there's that. Yeah, look, Nunes. If Nunes isn't fit, then I'm with you on the Hayes call.
Yeah.
But
it's a tough one because then you lose that rotation in your back line. And I'm like, well, I don't know who else goes down there because I don't really want Cottrell. O'Brien's not that player. Does Hayes have to kind of play rushing off halfback? Can they deal without having anyone play that role down there? It's a tough one. The selection, I think I said this when Paolo was on. It might have been mid-Terry as well. I was like, I don't want to be the selection person anymore. No. Last year when we were garbage, it was so easy to come in here every single week, strut in, shoulders back, and just say, this guy's out, this guy's in, these are the changes. Now I'm going, I can't do it. God forbid, Pito's fit and trying to make that change. As much as we want him in, that's they're earning their paycheck for once, I reckon.
Facts. And that's why I'm going to put my nice thick pants on and sit on this fence because I don't have all the information in front of me. And I also do not want to answer who comes out for Pitt because I cannot in my mind right now picture the structure. No. But in my heart, I know that that's what we've got to roll with. But I don't want to lose the structure that we have. Boy, it's tough.
Could I throw one out there for you?
Go on.
Let's say, could you? I'll steal one of the Lockie isms on this one. Could you see a world where
Good man.
a honey comes out for Pitto and they just go,
Yeah.
Fisher plays a bit more of that half forward. Cottrell maybe can play a bit more of that half forward at times, and they just get rid of that kind of position as a whole. Maybe a Kennedy floats there a little bit more. You can kind of, move some magnets around a little bit.
I like it. I was going to say that before you reminded me of Owies, who we love, and we love in the team. But yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I feel like, well, if apparently Honey didn't do anything on the weekend, then it's addition by subtraction, isn't it? Apparently. Yeah. But that's not a bad shout, I reckon.
Look, we're clearly struggling with our team changes. So I will ask everyone who is listening to this now, if you're watching on YouTube, chuck it in the comments, give us your changes, give us your thoughts on the game. How are we going to beat Geelong as well? And if you listen to this in any podcast form, hit us up on the socials at Navy Blue Corner, DM us, tweet us, anything you want, because we love to chat footy and we need to know the changes so we can then come on here and sound like geniuses, steal your ideas and put them on, because we are struggling with these team changes this week. Lockie, I guess we've been going for a while now. I knew the comeback was going to mean that this was a bit of a longer episode.
It's great.
Anything else that you think is maybe a big reason why we can win or how we will beat the Geelong Cats on the weekend?
I mean, I'm just going to have to go back to the bread and butter. The fact that there is no reason that this team, when you look at that last quarter, you look at this whole performance, you go back to any game this year, why is there any reason that we can't beat a team like Geelong?
Yeah.
How many more games have they won than us this year?
Yeah.
A single game more. There's no reason why we can't beat anyone. That's where we're at. We're ahead of where we thought we were going to be this year, and we can take a 21. There's no reason not to have that faith right now. Home game, gee. Oh,
the crowd will be up and about, mate.
Oh, mate. We are going to be up and about.
Oh, it certainly will be. And I think I say this most weeks, and it's such a simple, you can say it's a really poor analysis as well, and I'm happy to cop that one. There's normally a lot of that from me. But it's midfield gets on top, we win this game. Because you saw it almost against St Kilda if we kick straight. You saw it again this week. We've got the tools that you get it into them. They're going to mark it. They're going to get opportunities, and they're going to kick goals. They've obviously got some really good forwards themselves in Hawkins and Cameron down there. So if we can limit the amount of entries, we've seen our defense hold up pretty well without a Wiedering. We've now got Wieders back. That's definitely going to help us come against these two really strong beasts down there. So if you can just win that midfield battle, like that's the game for me, because whoever gets the ball into their forward line more, I think wins this game. Whoever gets more forward entries wins it. And it's probably a really simple, stupid analysis, because it sounds like, of course, the team that gets more forward entries wins. But that's just where I'm seeing this game completely, because I think we're very similar with the way that it's get it into the key pillars. So, yeah, midfield has to be on top this week.
You're filling me with confidence, mate.
That's good to hear. That is good to hear. But look, that's probably going to wrap this one up. I'm very happy to have you back, Lockie. I've loved the guests, and we're going to have to get these guys on now that you're back. But it's been great to chat to you once again. And it was great to be joined with you with a beautiful win against the West Coast Eagles. Let's hope we do it again against the Cats. I can't believe I've left it this late. But was it a good decision to leave us, SPS? There's my drive-by for the week.
Oh.
Catch you guys next time.